It is Loki, it is. Just setting up. Sorry. I'll be with you guys in a moment. Yeah. Bit of music. Jump to the recording screen. And hello, how are you all doing? You've been following for 192 days. Damn. That's so cool. Lovely to have you here as always, Loki. Linus, lovely to see you. It's 10 degrees now. You need someone to cuddle. That is fair. I feel that. What's the temperature here in Adelaide? In sunny Adelaide, it is currently 17 degrees. So I got you beat slightly. But I do have that same wish, I think. I might actually go for some music that's slightly more chill. Not that the music from Night in the Woods isn't chill, but it could be more chill. There we go. As if we're in a nice and calm cafe. The rain. I don't know. But yeah, where we left off, just filling out the line work for this page. Anti-aliasing. Check something. Brush doesn't give me the option for anti-aliasing. That actually might explain to me why I dislike the pen. It's not that I dislike the pen. I'm only joking. But it is interesting. It's 7 degrees here. You should probably turn off the aircon. Yeah, probably. Feels a little unnecessary. It's nice and cool there, at the very least. How's everyone's Tuesday or Monday going? But do you like white noise? That's fair. Well, guess what? You're looking for white noise. Come to the right place. Ain't no white noise like Grey Mouse. should be just fan now. That's fair. That's good. Don't want too much cool. Even if you can put layers on, sometimes it's just nice to be warm. But wouldn't that be grey noise? That's true. Technically, it would be grey noise, as opposed to white noise. You're completely right. By the gods, that's Sir Greymass. He's the first ever Wizard of Oz and is the first art streamer. The gaming gods have sent us our savior. All hail the heavens above. All hail the lords of gaming, and all hail Greymass. That also explains why I put on the second comforter. That's also fair. You make it nice and cool, and then you add like layers and stuff, and so it's like it's nice and crisp, but you're still warm. That I do that all the time. Check something. Oh yeah, it's about the same. There's always like little things that I'm noticing. Warm up. Highlight your message. What? So Mass, that doesn't just say hi to zombie anymore. No. Okay, fine. Oh, Mass doesn't just say hi to zombie anymore. I did. I said, hey, zombie. I didn't. Hi, zombie. How you doing? How you been? Yeah, that's way better. I don't like the look of giving Dogan a mullet. Something just seems off about that. Whether or not that reward was intentional is up to you. Can't make it up to me. I made that warm-up redeem for you all. I could draw something. Hold on. Let's jump to the warm-up page. Okay. Let's just do a cheeky warm-up. Okay, yeah, so it's just the resolution of the page as well, which is good to know. So Ken, despite you being a professional dumbass, you can get through it. Hey! Oi! None of that language. Actually, you're more than welcome to pick on me. That's okay. Professionals get paid, he's still an in-training dumbass. Ah! Son of a bitch! Just my most loyal viewers coming after my throat. Son of a bitch! just you guys are good. You guys are good value. Hydrating as well. That's a good one. So Mouse is a poor dumbass. Joke's on you. Actually, you're a pretty poor dumbass. Yeah, actually. Yeah. Yeah. It do pour for me. When it rains, it pours. For old grey mouse. And by pause, I mean not just my own paws on my hands, but also because I'm poor and on the street. I'm homeless. Of course, hydrate. You can't be dehydrated, poor dumbass. All right. I'm gonna put a line in the center. I can't even pretend to be angry as well. Like, all right, stop calling me dumbass. It's like I don't give a shit. Anytime people are like, you choose like what you warm up with, I'm just gonna draw a self-portrait, I think, or something along those lines. Uninformed posterior, then. You misinformed anus. I love it. I don't mind that. Actually, that's a nice self-portrait. Has to be like, I can't say anything because everything you said is 100% true. Well, I don't agree with that, but I don't mind you guys saying stuff like that because it's funny. If you guys insult me, I'm more than happy to be insulted. Just it's got to be funny. If it sounds aggressive, then like I can't tolerate that. This is actually kind of cute. I don't mind this at all. We love you, Mass. Sometimes, or sort of. I mean, I guess that's good enough for me. You don't have to love me. Just tolerate me and appear in the chat on my streams. That's all that matters to me. And of course that you're healthy. Give him. It's cuter than you, that's for sure. A little bit, a little bit. Got a charm. This is Promise. I like it. All right, so we've drawn. Our little warm up has been a little self portrait, but a Walmart version of myself. It is Promise. I need to resize that. That's fucked. Oh wait, no, there we go. I thought you say Linus. Maybe. I may have said Linus. How are you, Linus? While I'm saying your name accidentally or intentionally. How you doing? Riz. What the? You fucking. Zombie Slayer is maybe my biggest troll. Not my nemesis, he's a VIP, so he gets the VIP treatment, so he's welcome here. But on thin fucking ice. Oh fuck. Wait, I meant to type more of Riz. We're taking a break from raiding into Tealful just because you're on probation. I can't trust you in her streams. You'll just say Riz. Riz-based humor. Then again, you'll say it everywhere, but I've noticed it's currently only been Tealful, so we're taking a break from Tealful. Can't have you risen up the place. Throwing Riz around willy-nilly. Rizzy-nizzy. Ugh. Now I'm saying it unironically. This is my hell. Oh no, my hell is that airport seat with kid kicking it. Never mind. I think that's actually pretty good to start coloring as well. I shall then just say something else as annoying. I don't doubt you. I don't doubt that you would, or can, or have the capability. It's actually a useful player. Delete it. Oh shit, I deleted the comic. You mean a movie theater, dumbass? You don't even know your own personal hell? No, correction, dumbass. I know specifically it was an airplane because one of the additions to it being my personal hell was that there was someone in front of me reclining the chair. And last time I checked, you couldn't recline a chair in a movie theater. Have you been to a movie theater? Have you touched grass? I can't, like. Me just like me, I can't even pretend to lose my shit because I'll just start laughing. You've been one to recliners, actually. Shut up, Roki! Doesn't suit my point. I've had a day. I've had a real day. Like, you can tell I'm tired because I'm more inclined to just be unhinged in my sense of humor. No, the reason I remember it being an aeroplane seat is because I remember the story about a chair reclining into my knees. That's why it was part of my personal hell. Got him, Zombie Slayer. Also, they serve you alcohol, burgers, and sushi. It was a good time. Holy shit. That's awesome. That's a good movie theater. Then again, I've been to a movie theater kind of like that, not with the reclining seats, but I with a group of friends and stuff. We went and played Mario Kart in a theater, which was incredible. So much fun. Yeah, that's the thing in movie theaters. What, you only go to movie theaters and can't recline chairs? I only go to those places because I have VIP status there as well. ... Dumbass. It doesn't matter. You changed your point changed. All right. I do like the most annoying thing in an argument where I just go, I win. That is cool. I didn't realize that there are some movie theaters that do have reclining chairs. It's probably because I live in Australia. In Australia, many movie theaters just don't give a fuck about us, about our existence. All right, gonna do the childish color fill in now. Well, big part of the process. Random. I feel like dumbass is actually like a really a pretty tame insult. And I'm only bringing it up now because we've been throwing it around a lot. But like it really is like it feels quite tame comparatively to some other things that you could say. And I'm not going to say those, but like we only have one theater like that in a city of 215k. Yeah, that makes it special though. If we do, I have no idea. I've only lived in Adelaide a year. I've been to one cinema and it's really good, but it's different to the ones I'm used to. And the reclining chairs on planes only go back maybe 2 inches. Yeah, especially if my knees are involved. No, they can recline like pretty far. But the point is, the reason I included it in my like personal hell like analogy is because I have a story about someone reclining into my knees and then continuing to recline. And that's why it became a part of like my personal hell. It doesn't matter, but like that's why it's included in my personal hell because it's something I've experienced and I'd really like to never experience again. Sorry, just muted to cough. Not necessarily feel icky, but it's a cough. But weird. Also, I'm fucking scheduled to go to Melbourne again. Doing more flying, guys. Not. Oh, actually, I can't say not anytime soon. Pretty soon. But like, yeah, I'm scheduled to fly more. You know what? I don't want to experience again kidney stones. That's super fair. I've only heard stories about kidney stones, and it always sounds like agonizingly bad. I feel for you, Loki. I feel for you. Yeah, that's rough. That's real rough. Oh, when is the all week streams? I am taking so Beanstalk week will be first week of July. So actually coming up pretty soon. You know, like broadly speaking. And then I should also, some point in June, I should have a birthday stream as well because that's coming up as well. And knowing me, I always forget. I constantly forget my birthday, so let's break tradition, and I won't forget my birthday this time. This time round, maybe. We'll see. Yeah, well, that might be a good thing, a fun thing to do. Getting really close to a lot of milestones with the stream as well. Like in August, it'll be my stream anniversary. I will have streamed for an entire year, which is super cool. And I didn't think I would have gotten to this point. Um, like, you know, this amount of followers. I don't think I would have reached affiliate. I don't fully believe I would have reached affiliate in a year of streaming, but I'm happy to have been proven wrong. Okay, what are the next? Don't read the writing. Gonna go back a little bit further. Don't read the writing. Yeah, lesson to learn here is to draw more bees. Yes, true. Well, we got a new. We'll be going into the new chapter, so there might actually be some bees. Yellow. Okay, easy. Yeah, there may be more bees. Well, there will definitely be more bees, but there will almost certainly be opportunities for it as well. And I'm quietly hopeful that Moni will get through Dead Space. And when she does, hey, there'll be a cameo from her as well, which should be super cool. Yeah, I should just draw people like other streamers' favorite animals and insects and stuff. That's how I get them. How I bring them all in, draw in everyone. No, you never know. I like managed to endear myself to Nev without drawing a Furby, but or Nigel Thornbury. So you never know where you'll find uh, friends in the streaming community. But yeah, I'll definitely draw more bees. Sweet little bees and stuff. And it's one thing I wanted to have like an emphasis on insects and stuff in the comic anyway. So there's no like I got absolutely no issue with drawing more insect stuff. And cute ones too, because like best. Oh, that's his buckle. EJ. Typo. Yeah, what did you mean to type? I'm actually really curious what you meant to say now. What to say? PJ. Mouse, can you react to a picture on stream if I send it to me on Discord? Do you want to send, is it appropriate, first of all? First question, is it appropriate? And it'll lead into my second question. Your answer to this first question will lead into my second question. Is it appropriate for stream? Because if you send me a picture of like just a flaccid penis, I will react to it, but I won't put it up on stream. Your hair is wet, so water is falling on your phone keyboard. Oh, okay, so that's where the PJ came from. Okay. So now I'm more concerned about what this picture is you're going to send me. What are you sending me? Announcements. I have gone live. Thank you, Punga. The picture is part of your own personal hell. Okay. It makes it so much worse. Okay, send it to me. Send it to me specifically. I won't post it up on because I was gonna open up the Punga screen where Punga's holding up the art. But if it's complicated or grim, then I might refrain from showing the rest of everyone. Or I might look at it and then I might decide to switch. Show me this picture. Do it. Ah, there it is. Oh. Hold on. Hold on. We're going to... Everyone gets to join in to see this. Hold on. Okay, it's there. I see it. Yeah. Punga. No, Punga's not showing it. You little fucker. Actually, that's probably for the best because it might dox people that I know in my Discord. So actually, probably for the best. So for those who can't see, which is pretty much everyone but me and Zombie Slayer, Zombie Slayer just sent me a picture of someone who draped their hair over the TV screen of a a plane, and yeah, that does make it so much worse. It's fucking horrible. If that person was sitting in front of me, draped their hair over my screen while I was watching, I don't know, Game of Thrones again or something like that, and reclined on me, I might actually be brought to killing them or like to violence, because that's fucking horrible. I hate that so much. That is my personal hell. My personal hell is like evolving. Such a fascinating and really heartbreaking way. Because, like, with hell, you really just. I hope it couldn't get worse. And mine seems to perpetually keep getting worse. Then again, I'm sure it could always be worse, right? And as this stream will go to show, we will watch as it slowly gets worse and worse. Like I could add. Oh. Also, it'd be kind of fun to post the promise as like in addition to the update, like that I do at the end of stream. So if you don't know, on Twitter and sometimes Instagram, I'll post the updates, so what we've accomplished in the stream. So I'll definitely add Gromis. Well, that's nasty. The person tries to move the hair as well, but the bitch in front of her puts her hair back, and so it still covers the screen. And that's what, like, that's disgusting behavior. I hate that. Like, it's not even like, no joke. That's just such horrible behavior. To the point where, like, if you acted like that, I don't think you have any right to be angry if they decided to just cut your hair. If they went, cool, alright, I'll cut your hair so that I can see the screen. Really, they're not. I would actually not even argue that they're being as petty as you. I think that they're actually being reasonable compared to you. I was having Game of Thrones death scene thoughts over there. Yeah, I'm just sitting here watching Game of Thrones, red wedding, and then this woman's just thrown her hair over it. I'm just like, oh man, why would you do that? Watching Game of Thrones. It's giving me ideas. Well, I'm zooming out. I know what I want to draw. That, like, big garden arch. First panel. Now a bit, it's now quite far away. But also prominent. Was big. I'm also pretty sure I know why. Like, I'm getting a little bit of pixelation. Like, I altered the resolution of the page. Now it's slightly smaller, which means that it'll, you know, not use up quite as much data, but I feel like I'm probably safe to use more data. Imagine if her hair covered a really good scene in Game of Thrones. Well, if it censored it well, then maybe that's for the best, but like, even so, I know what I'm getting into. Sometimes I like rewatching Game of Thrones, but the early seasons, because they were good before they were ruined and stuff, but like they were good and enjoyable. Sometimes I like rewatching them. If you're going to get in the way of that woman with hair on my plane, well then be prepared to lose that hair. Allowed scissors on a plane? What I got teeth for? Can you imagine how unnerving that would be to like get off a plane and you realize like your long hair has now become like a bob, but it's been chewed off? Oh god. That's horrible. How convincing was that retching sound for all of you listening? I didn't actually vomit in my mouth, but it sounded convincing, didn't it? Earlier scenes actually had something called plot and good character development. Yeah, the early seasons are really good, and like the slightly lower budget was like actually worked to its benefit, I think. So like a lot of it is a lot more drawn back, and a good like portion of scenes or exposition was like done through slow like travel and stuff, and it was really nice. It was like a slow burn and it really worked. And then the later seasons characters could get from like King's Landing to Winterfell in an afternoon, whereas it took weeks in the first season. I miss that. They also started to run out of like good actors and characters because they'd gone through the entire like British phone book of actors for a little while. And when we were talking about your own personal hell, you said that if uh, you only had one armrest instead of neither because the devil thought it would be more of an arsehole move to give you only one. Yeah, so I would be like on the aisle seat. Or I wouldn't get a window seat because it's my personal hell. But I'd get like an aisle seat. Ugh. Yeah, that's nasty. That's a nasty existence. I'll admit it. I say I'll admit it as if it's not my own personally like crafted hell. You know? Like, yeah, I knew this was gonna be bad. We designed it that way. It was by design that this would be bad. I'm like, yeah, I'll admit it. I'll admit it. It's pretty uncomfy. Was never a big fan of the show. You watched a few of the earlier seasons, but kind of fell off it. You need an aisle seat. Yeah, both of your points are fair enough. Fair points, I think. Um, like the aisle seat thing, fair enough. Also, like aisle seat's not actually that bad. It really does depend on who you're there with, or the other passengers. Because my past few flights have been aisle seats and stuff. So that's okay. But also Game of Thrones, it was fine. Like the earlier seasons were good, like considerably better than the later seasons, but it was still like it wasn't for everyone as well. And I don't think it's fair for people to be like, "Oh, you had to have like you had to watch Game of Thrones or whatever." It's like, or you had to enjoy it. I think that's a point that I've never really agreed with. It's like you don't have to enjoy something that people rave about, even if it is like, no matter how good or bad it is. And in terms of how big the world is at the point in earlier seasons, you don't need that much money since for one, it's a slow burn, so not a lot happens at any one time, and two, battles are quite small in earlier seasons. Yeah, yeah. It's much more self-contained as well, which is nice. I know I've heard a lot of good things about House of the Dragon, but I'm just like, until the season, like the series is over, I'm not watching it. It had good parts, but the time investment didn't really seem worth it to me. That's also fair. Very much like what Stranger Things is now. It's like there is a huge time investment into that series. And if you want, like, if you've never seen Stranger Things and you start now, like, you have to get through a really slow first season. And it's not necessarily a bad first season, but it's slow. Holy shit, is it slow. Like, I didn't realize it at the time, but rewatching uh, Stranger Things, I realized just how slow the season, like the first two seasons, really were. Um, and that can actually really like weaken the enjoyment if you just want to get to like the bits that you want, like the bits you want to see over the whole like watching the whole thing. The oh shit moments of earlier seasons was more about death scenes or character development rather than the entire world is changing. Also, I think one of the things that worked, like one of the biggest strengths that Game of Thrones had was that it really avoided um, tropes. In that you had characters like Ned Stark, who was like your stereotypical hero. He was a good guy, did the right things. He played it smart, but he also played it kind. And spoilers for Game of Thrones if you haven't seen it and intended to watch it, but he gets fucking murked in like the first season. He's dead in the first season. And yeah, and like you just like, what? Had some tropes though, but mostly not a lot. Yeah, well, it had tropes, but it used them well, and used them in a way that most like shows use them anyway. But like it avoided the stereotypical story beats, I think is what I'm like the point I'm trying to get across is that it avoided these stereotypical story beats of like the hero's rise and fall because we followed it like if we looked at let's say because I've already spoiled what happens with Ned, but if we look at the story of Ned Stark as a 3-act structure, he's played by Sean Bean. It would only be a spoiler warning if he lived. I mean, I guess so. Yeah, that's true. Well, in National Treasure, he lives. He just gets arrested. Oh, spoilers. um, you literally said like if he lived, it'd be a spoiler, and then I spoiled a different thing. But so let's say with Ned Stark, his like arc is he joins up with his longtime friend to be Hand of the King. He realizes like he learns of a secret of incest in the Lannister line that has actually led to his children being illegitimate and illegitimate to the throne because they are children of incest and not, wedlock. Um, he is taken capture by the villains, like the bad guys of the series, or the villains of his story, and locked in a cell. He is then made to beg forgiveness, and his daughter even begs him to beg for forgiveness and not take responsibility, but claim guilt for his it being his wrongdoing. And he does that. He does that to protect his daughters. Now, normally in a 3-act structure or a hero's journey, this would be his downfall, and then his rise back to power would be lead to the conclusion. But he's just killed. He's just killed in his downfall, which is storytelling that at that point in time was so rare and so unheard of. That's what makes it so good, because it was done so well that it is played off beautifully, like absolutely beautifully. In That's not gonna be it. Eh. Zoom in. Can't color picker this far away. Let's go there. Baba booey. We got sky. We got the night sky. But yeah, I really like that. And then we had his son, Rob, who was like a son searching for revenge and in the pursuit of revenge. And in a normal hero's journey, he would get that revenge. Okay, lore nerd in me is going to explain a small mistake. Not necessarily of incest, since Game of Thrones is based off a time when royal incest was normal, but it's that they aren't the children of the king. Sorry if I'm getting all actually on UMass, don't mean to. Oh, that's what I like. So that's what I mean, because they're raised as what's his name? They're raised as Baratheons, but they're not, because they're not actually his children. And that's why they are illegitimate, because they're children of incest, not children of bloodline. Sorry, I explained that badly, but yeah, I think we're on the same page anyway. And from a world-building standpoint, Battle of Winterfell doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But also the Winterfell changes constantly in the series. Because in the book, it's actually a pretty easily defendable space. But then in the series, it changes so constantly. Yeah, we are. Nice. It's so weird. It's such a weird choice to make, because they also do that with King's Landing just constantly. like King's Landing looks completely different in every season. And as a viewer, it's hugely disorienting. Because you're like, oh, at what point of King's Landing are we at? And you can't be sure because it's like, because it's changed. It's changed again. There used to be coastline, and now there isn't. I need, please. Yeah. But man, what a fuck up. Like, what an absolute fuck up. I also knew that, like, D&D, the directors and writers for the Game of Thrones TV series, they couldn't be fucking trusted. I knew they couldn't be trusted. Like, if we got any, like, Dungeons and Dragons nerds, um, most of you will have seen, like, this YouTube video which talks about the elite um, club, like the club of elite Hollywood D&D players. And it's like a YouTube video about all the Hollywood celebrities who are a part of like a D&D group. And you know, D&D, the writers for Dungeons and Dragons and the writers for Game of Thrones were a part of this. And you get a little insight into the kind of people that they are, because their introduction to Dungeons and Dragons in this like elite group of Hollywood players was they wouldn't join the game unless they knew the stats of the enemy that they were fighting. So they would not join the game unless they could metagame and cheat, basically. So that just kind of tells you the contents of their character. For example, we know that to kill White Walkers you have to use Dragon Glass or fire, so why aren't there two big as fuck dragons mowing down White Walkers? Why would you send your cavalry into battle but they can't even see the enemy? But how could you see the White Walkers with the two gigantic dragons whose fire can envelop a whole army, so who use the fire as a huge flashlight? Yeah, exactly. It's like the writing is really dumb. Like, also the way that they kill the two, I mean, spoilers, the way that they kill the two dragons, like Viserion and Rhaegar, the way that the White Walkers and then, you know, the other people kill the dragons is so like poorly done, like writing wise. It's such shit writing that it comes across as like just luck. Sucks. So that just makes Daenerys and Jon look either stupid or as if they don't care about their armies and don't mind armies. And mind you, they still have to fight Cersei's army, so they aren't even sure how many men they will have to fight. How many men they will have to fight Cersei. Yeah, yeah. It's one of the things I hated. I also really didn't like not Cersei, Daenerys's character arc. Because so here's the thing, this is one thing that I found might be a bit of a unpopular opinion. But from season 1, you could tell that, like, if you knew story beats and storytelling, you could tell she was going to turn bad. Apologize if your wording is off. No, that's on me. Like, I'm drawing and reading, so I'm going to be a bit off sometimes. I'm not going to be on it. You could tell Daenerys was going to turn bad and you actually get you get little instances in the earlier seasons, the good seasons, where she shows evidence of negative character development or detrimental character development, which is a really good way of showing a character's decline, because you actually have to show these negative traits of characters if you're going to put them into decline. And the way that is visually told and told through this earlier seasons is really nicely done, because you get instances where you're just like, oh, well, that was a bit weird, or that was a bit off for her character. But it's a one-time thing. It's not like it's going to become a trend, and then it doesn't become a trend, but it's like a gradual build, which I really liked. And then the Bells episode happened, and they completely fucked it, because they were running out of seasons, which is their fault. I'm not going to be like, it's nobody's fault, that they were running out of seasons. It's their fault, because they wanted to get it done with so that they could move on to their Star Wars deal, which ended up falling through because they rushed the final seasons Game of Thrones. But yeah, it was just like hugely disappointing, because it's also like you put so much work into a show like this, and then you just fuck it up because you're greedy about it. It's like, why would you do that? So maladaptive to do shit like that. Fuck over your fans, to fuck over, because also it goes to show how badly they fucked up, because Game of Thrones ruled pop culture for the era that it was a part of, and then it just disappeared completely until House of the Dragon came back. And even then, it doesn't have even now, House of the Dragon's pop culture doesn't have the same grasp on the market that Game of Thrones did. Not even close, really. So yeah, it's just massively disappointing, of course, but it's also really interesting to see how that happened, too. And I don't really blame George R.R. Martin for the failure. I feel that it's also really tragic that he's written so many books and stories and stuff like that, and Game of Thrones was the first one that really kind of took off for him. And then the TV series came out, hugely popular, hugely successful. People love his work. And then the final season came out, and it was very obviously reminiscent of the ending that he had in mind. However, it wasn't executed the way that he would have done it. But it doesn't matter, because no matter what he does, it will have the same ending, or a similar ending to the way the series ended. So he's afraid to release it now. It's just a bit sad, I think, because it's just unfortunate, your life's work ends up becoming something you're afraid to finish, because other people fucked it up, not you. Other people fucking ruined it. And sure, you sold it and you made a shit ton of money, but it's that was your life's work. Fucking morons, yeah. Internet cut out for a few minutes. Isn't releasing? The books. So George R. R. Martin's books, Winds of Winter or whatever, whichever one it is, that is being released, or was supposed to be released. The ending to Game of Thrones in the books. That's not going to be released. It's never going to be released. Or it might be released, but it'll be done quietly. Oh yeah. Oh wait, not yeah. Lolo. Which yeah, it's like, oh good lord, yeah, it's like, well, what can you do? You know, it's like you can't win. You can't win in that situation. So I do feel relatively bad for George R. R. Martin, though. Like the success of um, House of the Dragon is a redemption, not for him necessarily, but for his work, which is nice. But I don't think he'll release the ending to Game of Thrones just because he's like, I wouldn't say afraid. I would say remorseful of how the series ended, and now afraid of a secondary backlash. It's fair, you know. The end of RATBB was, you know, not well received. I'd feel the same kind of way to a certain degree. I'd be like, well, maybe I don't release. Well, actually, the supplementary material is mostly standalone, so I would still release that stuff, but I'd be like, cool, I'm not really gonna add more to the RATBB kind of pathway. Not that I ever planned to anyway, but it's just like I'd feel glad it was over, and that would be really rough, I think. I would feel really sad about that because I don't want to feel glad that the comic ends. Like, I'm not looking forward to the day that I finish, you know, I'm going to be sad about it. But I'm also going to be happy and fulfilled because this series will have, you know, been going for a really long time. We will have made some great friends, we will have told some great stories. And it'd be stuff that I hope that my audience would be happy with as well, which is the most important thing. Okay, now considering that D&D deserve all the hate they get, sure they destroyed the show, but hey, at least we have the books. Oh wait, the books are now affected by the show's failure. Okay, yeah, fuck you, D&D. Yeah, exactly. They completely fucked it over, and like, also like, it's great that they didn't get the Star Wars deal, but Star Wars. Sorry, I don't want to like. If you're a Star Wars fan, you may want to stop listening, but Star Wars hasn't been good for a little while. So it wasn't going to be made better by D&D, but it also like it's no great loss that they didn't get the Star Wars deal. Because you bet your life whatever George R. R. Martin came up with would be much more satisfying. Yeah, it would have been a satisfying ending even if it was similar because it would have had that established context and it would have had that established understanding of the depth of, you know, or the gravitas of the story itself that came from the person who wrote it. Um, I just said it, yeah. Even if it took another 5 years to be written, yeah. Define little while. Uh, it depends. Well, it's like, you know, the sequels were not good. Um, I liked Rogue One. I'll admit, I liked Rogue One. Clone Wars apparently is very good. This is also coming from someone who is not a huge Star Wars fan, so ultimately my opinion does not matter. Andor, I've heard is quite good. The first season of The Mandalorian, or first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, are very good. Heard? Star Wars hasn't been good for a little while. Mouse, ever since Disney decanonized all the books, games, and comics that they didn't make, I have known of Star Wars being awful. A big Star Wars fan right here. Okay. Alright, well then I feel slightly more confident saying that it's not been good for a little while. That being said, it's had some good stuff come out more recently, which is good. But it's also one of those things that I just don't think is necessary. It's like there don't need to be 5 Indiana Jones movies, you know, because there's a new one coming out, if you can believe it. Um, but there don't need to be new ones coming out. It really doesn't need it. There don't need to be remakes of things either. The Disney remakes are just the most blatant money grabs that I've ever seen. Completely unnecessary, and they're doing about as well as you'd expect because no one wants to really see them. Just, children currently. Which is fine, but you're really kind of exploiting. You're not like catering to an audience, you're exploiting that audience. You like Mando season 1 and 2, The Fett Show, and Rogue One, but never saw 7 to 9 and don't plan on it. That's a very good idea, Loki. I saw 7. It was fine, but it was just a rehash of A New Hope, just with, a new cast. And even then it wasn't very good. Like, it wasn't great. But, yeah. Hey, it's their property, they can do whatever they want with it, right? It's just disappointing that they're kind of letting down their fans. Here's one thing I'll say. I like Rian Johnson, the director of one of the Star Wars sequels. And Knives Out, if you don't know. I really like Knives Out. And I liked Glass Onion as well, but he reacted like an absolute baby when people provided actually quite honest and considerate criticism to his movie. He reacted like an absolute baby about it, which is not the way you react to criticism, because then you know what happens if you react to criticism like a child? It means it was correct. So about 40 years worth of Star Wars content isn't canon. Yeah, that's disgusting. That's such a disgusting waste of potential. Force Unleashed, Old Republic comics, Old Republic games, comics about after beating the Empire, etc., etc. All of that isn't canon, so fuck you, Disney. Yeah, Disney, real bad about it. Knights of the Old Republic games were such games, yeah. The only reason 7 being good is it's A New Hope done again. Yeah, exactly. Which is tragic, because that's such lazy storytelling. But yeah, I just don't respect directors who hide behind any kind of a smokescreen when confronted with your movie isn't good, or genuine criticisms of your film not being good. My favorite example of Hollywood babies is Zack Snyder, because someone said, wow, someone commented on just the visual darkness of his films. So as if you've watched any of Zack Snyder's, Superman, Batman vs Superman, or the Justice League, they're visually very dark. And I mean composition wise, not storyline wise. And someone pointed this out, and it was just it's quite visually dark, and he's like, yeah, and his response was, yeah, because it's not a baby movie for babies. It's not all bright and colorful because that would be for babies. And it's just man, the way you reacted to that, you don't have to be such a child about it, just say, yeah, I know it was a mistake. It was it wasn't a mistake, it was a creative decision that didn't work out. And Star Wars fans like to call that prick of a director Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson doesn't exist. I feel that's a bit unnecessary. He has made great films, but I also think he reacted like a baby. And this is also the thing, is that critique is a necessary part of filmmaking, but it also has to be within reason. The fact that Rian Johnson acted like a baby when critiqued about his film is a bad thing, but just but then shitting on him afterwards is it's just unnecessary as well. Because it's like, I think he's punished himself enough acting like a baby about it. As have I seen Last Jedi? I haven't. Lord of the Rings did lighting right. Lord of the Rings? Yes. If so, Lord of the Rings, then yes, I agree. I liked me saying I liked Lord of the Rings. Everyone likes Lord of the Rings. You didn't, you just didn't watch it hard enough. That's fair. You can't argue there. And yes, he did mess up with Star Wars, but it doesn't mean other movies of his aren't good. Yeah, yes, Lord of the Rings. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is great. Um, yeah, it's one of those things. Like my mentality is that you can do something wrong, you can mess up, but you have to be open to criticism. Or anything you make, you have to be open to critique. And if you take critique gracefully, it actually is a great opportunity for you to exemplify yourself as a creative and as a creator, because ultimately you've taken on this feedback, and of course it has to be constructive, but you've taken on the feedback and you've learned from it, and then your audience sees you as someone who is actually willing to admit mistakes that they've made, and they will like you more for it. Whereas if you go, in the books it was like this, so I'm right and you're wrong, then like ultimately you kind of come across as a big, big old childish baby about it. That's not cool. Wait, if so, Lord of the Rings, where did that come from? We're talking about lighting. Okay, never mind. Like the night battles, it's at night, but you lose a bit of the visual clarity, but you're still able to understand everything happening. Yeah, exactly. Not so dark, you have no clue what's going on. Yes, that's really good lighting and composition. You're right, Loki. Yeah, and also like, so a really good example of that is the Battle of Helm's Deep is it's one of the best cinematic battles because it does cinematic storytelling beautifully, without exchanging too much dialogue that slows the pace of the battle itself. So it actually still feels fast. It still feels time sensitive, and there is still tension there, but you actually get all the information you need to understand what's going on in the battle, which is excellent storytelling. Peter Jackson is a director I strongly respect. Even with The Hobbit and even with Mortal Engines and stuff like that, I genuinely don't blame him for The Hobbit being as bad as it was, because there were constraints in place from the producers that actually really crippled that series of movies. He also was going through like some pretty heavy medical treatment as well, so he was actually present on the film, like on the set, for less time than most of the other like crew. It's pretty rough. Yeah, that's what you're thinking of. Battle of Helm's Deep is dark visually, but there's moonlight shining so you can see everything. Yeah, it's beautifully done. Beautifully done. Cinematically very good. But yeah, I think Helm's Deep is just a masterwork of film. And I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings. Actually never seen the extended edition, or I've never watched fully through the extended edition. That's something I might do in the future, one day when I get the time. Got a comic to finish first. Well, not finish first, but like make some progress on first. Oh, got a message. Freaked me out. Getting startled by my own phone. Jesus. On with the arch. Okay, so Peter Jackson did in some way mess up with the Hobbit movies, but however, if someone such as him makes something so beautifully done, it's a masterpiece, that everything that comes after it, people won't like, since it's not a masterpiece as well, so I don't solely blame him for the failure of The Hobbit. There's more to it than just him. Yeah, well, his hands were very strongly tied with The Hobbit as well. His to the point where there's actually like a documentary behind the production of The Hobbit, which actually outlines that he didn't actually have a whole lot of creative control on The Hobbit itself. Um, and then also, as I was saying, he was undergoing I think he was undergoing kidney treatment, like a kidney operation. So he was on and off of set so sporadically that other people were having to fill in his role as director. You never knew that, but imagine. So yeah. There's like ultimately, let's not like beat around the bush here. The Hobbit was terrible. But there were like a shit ton of issues involved with production that led to it being as bad as it was. I have watched the first movie and the third movie. I am incapable of getting through the second one without falling asleep. Just goes to show how bad it is, because I will sit through fucking anything. I studied film. I had to sit through fucking anything. I watched The Company, which is a film about ballet, and it has no story at all. It is just a beautiful film about ballet. That is it. There is no storyline. Fucking nothing. Like, genuinely, there's no plot. There's no 3-act structure. It is just a film about ballet. Starring the girl from Scream and what's his face from Clockwork Orange. The guy from Clockwork Orange. But it's just a film about ballet. So will we. I mean, we are here after all. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll get around to it when I decide. You may find this hard to believe, but one film I actually hold in very high regard. Actually, this is a question I can open up to. Oh, geez, sorry. Open up to chat. If you had to have a top 3, what are your top 3 favorite films? I'll leave that open to chat. I'll answer myself once all the entries are in. Knew it, something was wrong. And then, what are your top 3 favorite films? Everybody in chat, let me know. Don't feel inclined to respond if you don't want to, but we're talking films, so let's hear what everyone's favorite films are. Top 3, top 3. All right, if I see more than 3 films from one person, banned. No, I'm joking. But Blazing Saddles, Repo, the Genetic Opera, and let me check my shelves to find a third. Okay, I can understand Blazing Saddles. I know Repo, the Genetic Opera. And is so, as a follow-up question, is that a film that is, for you, is it so bad it's good, or is it like fun to laugh at, or do you genuinely enjoy it? Because if so, I apologize for the first 2 remarks and questions. Yes, and you like the music. I love that I gave you 3. I asked you 3 questions and you responded with yes. I expect no less from my chat. I like the music too, to be fair. Hydrate comes in a little glass vial, a little glass vial, a little glass vial. Oh, it's so bad it's good. Okay, fair enough. That I can respect. I mean, not that I was going to disrespect any of them anyway. If you genuinely just enjoyed it, I'd be like, cool, good on you. Someone's got to. No, I wouldn't disrespect it. The thing I find with films is that you genuinely would be surprised what people enjoy, and I think judging them on it is regressive, is a regressive kind of trait. I want to learn why people enjoy stuff like that. Mouse, you're good with the words and stuff. What's it called when you don't use CGI and everything you make for a movie is real? It's not props. There's another word. It's called practical. So practical effects is the word you're looking for. If you're and you're talking about practical effects, the best example probably still The Thing. Hey, it's what I'm here for. Beat you to it. Yeah, it's what I do. It's what I do. I don't have to type to answer the question, so that's where my advantage comes in. And practical is still best. Oh, absolutely. The Thing is still one of the best films in terms of effects to this day. Like, the practical effects hold up, even though that film came out almost, holy crap, how long has it been? 50 years? Been a long time. But The Thing still is visually incredibly visceral. And it's all practical. And as we've come to understand with the Marvel films and things like that, CGI just doesn't work, because the demand for it is too high. As a result, the quality diminishes. Ugh, it's like that. Okay, so a point on practical effects is that most of Lord of the Rings movies is all practical effects. Yeah, all the armor is real, horses, etc., etc. But then you go The Hobbit and it's CGI. Yeah, so I'm sure that people turned off from it. That turned people off from it. It for sure made my boy Ian McKellen sad since he was sitting alone in a room talking in to a green screen as he's playing Gandalf. Oh yeah, I know that story, and it is heartbreaking. And one thing I find, like, it was I always get his name up, but it was one of the last films. Sir Christopher Charles Lee. No, Christopher Lee. Charles Lee is the bad guy um uh from Assassin's Creed 3. Christopher Lee. It was one of his last films, and he was too old and frail, or considered too frail, to fly to New Zealand, or to where they were doing most of the filming. So he had to do a lot of his stuff on a green screen, and for him that would have been quite heartbreaking as well, like a heartbreaking experience, because he's the only member of the entire Lord of the Rings cast who, if you don't know this, fun little fact, he is the only member of the entire Lord of the Rings cast who met Tolkien. he knew him. Also, one of my favorite stories with it is that with Christopher Lee was that when during a scene in the Two Towers where his character is stabbed in the back and he dies, and Tolkien gave him specific permission to play Saruman. Yeah, he wanted to play Gandalf as well, but he was, because of Tolkien, he ended up playing Saruman. But my favorite little bit of like trivia is that, or a bit from a interview, was that Peter Jackson was trying to get him to like scream and like like react in a specific way in the scene where he gets stabbed in the back, and Christopher Lee was just like, no, that wouldn't happen. Read your last chat above. Hold on. Oh, there's an additional part. Sorry. Also, you haven't done it yourself, but apparently for the Lord of the Rings, you can look at what armor orcs are wearing and notice it's elven armor, Rohirrim. Oh yeah, Rohirrim armor, Gondorian armor, Dwarven armor, so you can map out where the certain orc has traveled to. Yes, yeah, which is super cool. And Pulp Fiction and Aliens, if we remove my It's So Bad It's Good choice from Repo, the genetic opera, that's fair. Both really good choices. But yeah, as I was saying, Peter Jackson was trying to get him to like scream and moan after getting stabbed, and Christopher Lee was like, "Oh no, like someone wouldn't react like that. They would, you stab someone in the back, all the air is gonna like leave their lungs, and so they're not actually gonna make a noise. I would know because I've been in war, because he fought in World War II." And then Peter Jackson would always go, "Okay, let's leave it at that. You're right. I'm gonna back off," because he never said it, but it always implied that Christopher Lee has killed a man, or he has seen someone get stabbed in the back. So he knows exactly how a person reacts to getting stabbed in the back, which is just so fucking metal. Also, he was in a metal band. It's like, fuck, how cool can he be? Oh yeah, chug a yaki. I'll go grab a yaki. While we're doing this, Zombie Slayer. What are your 3 favorite movies or films? Specifically, he fought at the invasion of Italy, Winter War, and Battle of Monte Cassino, and more. Yeah, got my yaki. Hold on, you can hear that yaki. Delicious. A nice evening yaki. So man's had training, so to speak, knowing what happens when you stab someone. Yeah, exactly. He has personal experience. Oh, damn. Honestly, you don't know your 3 favorite films? Well, figure it out. Figure it out. I asked you, so now you got to answer. Still can't put your finger on what the taste reminds you of. For me, it's quite easy to put my finger on what it tastes like, because there is I guess Australian, um, like kid snack, which you would actually freeze in the freezer, and it tasted exactly the same. It was called Go-Gurt, and to me, Yakult tastes like Go-Gurt. Speaking of Lord of the Rings, Mouse, do you know the band Amarath? I do not. But I'll also answer for myself what my 3 favorite films are. So my 3 favorite films are, and I gotta make sure that there's a certain friend of mine who's not in chat. You in chat? I'm gonna take that as a no. Because they don't know what my favorite films are, and I have a preference to a certain film. So my 3 favorite films are Paddington 2. That is my absolute favorite film. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, and Surf's Up, the Penguin movie about surfing. Those are my 3 favorite films. Well, they are a metal band, and their name, Amon Amarth, means Mount Doom in Elvish Sindarian language. That's cool. That's pretty cool. Nerds. No, that's actually really cool. Not even gonna pretend. I love that some of Tolkien's books are just like explanations of elves and elvish. Because I have the Silmarillion. I've never read it, but I have it, and I'm just like kind of overwhelmed by the idea that one of the novels that he released or wrote and published was just an explanation of the years of history of elves, or characters in his world. Haven't seen everything yet, but it's on the list. And if we are bringing in animated, well, Wall-E takes number 3. Wall-E is fantastic. Do you remember the Dead Marshes of Lord of the Rings? I do. Wall-E is so good. Oh man, I like. I cry at anything. A lot of films will make me cry. That one's a big one for me. That's one of my favorite Disney films as well. Disney? Disney Pixar, one of them. But yeah, it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful film. Tragic, of course, because of like what the fuck we did to our planet. But beautiful because it's just a love story between 2 robots, really. Beautiful. Makes my heart do things. Makes me feel things. I've heard that the Silmarillion is going to break your fucking mind, and Tolkien said full fucking send ahead as part of his thought process to write it. Yeah. The Tolkien was very much a go big or go home kind of guy. He literally wrote a whole story about a language that he made up. Idiocracy needs a special mention for being the only movie that started as satire and has evolved into prophecy. Yeah. Guess when Tolkien got the inspiration of the Dead Marsh, where he got the inspiration for the Dead Marshes from? I don't know. Wales? That's maybe a bit rude. I like Wales. I mean, I've never been, but I know I would like it. Um, but yeah, there are a ton of really good films. Current stuff that's being released lately is not great. But there have been some really good. Perfect time to rewatch your favorites. All Hollywood is releasing just shitty shit that no one wants to watch. Oh, the Dead Marsh is based off the Battle of the Somme from World War One. Gee, I know Somme. I've not been to that area. I've been to certain parts of France. I've not been to Somme. I've been to certain parts of France where battles during World War Two have taken place. That's not the same. That's super cool. I mean, not cool, but it's like fascinating. Like when Ollivander says that Voldemort did great things, terrible things, but great, which is a quote that I do really like because it's so fascinating to see how we've repurposed terms like great and awful. Because awful, full of awe, now is used negatively, whereas it wasn't always necessarily negative, because it is an awful experience. Not an awful experience, but it is full of awe and stuff like that. But I find that fascinating. I think you finally figured out why no one really remembers lines from Avatar or really much beyond the basic plot. They are so caught up in the visual storytelling that they don't remember the rest of the storytelling. Movie, not show. And I read the movie, not show before I read the first bit, like your paragraph, and I was just like, oh shit. And when you said Avatar, I was like, oh, the M. Night Shyamalan one. And I was like, oh, wait, no, of course not. We don't talk about that one. Tolkien be like, damn, I just made up this fake language for fun and I don't know what to do with it. Writes several books over 6 decades to just then justify his fake made up language. Yeah, that's like, well, I don't want to say literally what happened. That's pretty much like the background to it, which is so fascinating. It's like Tolkien seemed like such a fascinating individual in that, like, I don't know many people whose brains work like that. Better coping mechanism than most, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know many people whose brains work in that way, that kind of creative, that literary creative kind of juggernaut of writing and literacy. That is like, oh, created a whole language. And like, admittedly, I've created a language and I used a lot of Tolkien's teachings to create that language, which will be in this comic. But I didn't create a language and then build a story around it. I created a language because I wanted to do justice to a culture in this story that I didn't want to be. I wanted it to be inspired by real cultures and real like not real history but real cultures and stuff like that. But I didn't want it to resemble real cultures and their history either. So I thought it was only necessary to create a language and and a and a script, you know, not a font, and just create a language, a written and spoken language, and one that wasn't derived from English either. Not so fun fact about the Avatar Last Airbender movie. The show writers had thoughts of doing a season 4 of Avatar, but they chose the movie over the show. Yeah, here's the thing. I don't think that was necessarily a bad decision. I think the 3 season structure for Avatar is great, and I'm actually worried about the movie coming up, like the movie of the adult Avatar gang. I'm actually concerned about it. I do not think it. Like, I think based on how Legend of Korra went, I do not imagine it going very well, or going as well as I think it will go. But if it turns out to be good, sweet. Doesn't, then oh well. I just won't watch it. Because I freaking adore, like, I adore the Avatar TV series. Avatar The Last Airbender. One of my favorite series of time. Call me nostalgic if you like, but like, I adore it. 6 a.m. is going to start to try to go to sleep. Fair enough. Oh, so you're going to start trying to sleep. Fair enough, man. Try your best. Take care of yourself. Sleep well. You get some head pats from the Grimaus. You probably could think that like Tolkien, but only for a week tops, and that's it. You'll start smoking out of the brain. Happens. Um, Tolkien had that thought process of for all of his life. I shit you not. One of the books is called Fall of Gondolin. Probably the oldest piece of Lord of the Rings because Tolkien wrote it on a piece of marching band paper in World War One. Shit. Bye bye, Lucky. Go to sleep. Get some sleeps. Get all the sleeps. Do it. That's super cool. Yeah. But I have, yeah. In that same vein, I've created a language, and it originates from Maori, not from English, which I think is one of the most important things that Tolkien spoke about. Is that it's so boring to create a language that originates from English. It's selfish and colonist, um, and colonizer like instinct basically derive a language or create a language purely from English is short-sighted. Only Dead Space tomorrow. Well, tomorrow for me. I will try to be there. I got work, but I will do my best to hop in. The fuck is talking to me? People always like reach out and message me while I'm like streaming. I'm not gonna respond to them currently. I will do, but later. Gotta get my priorities straight. You guys are my priority right now. But yeah, and I found learning that process of creating a language so fascinating as well. Um, because I built it in a way that was just so much fun as well, and it fit so the language is the goblin, like it's goblin, but I built a language around goblins that has this deep respect. And one of the phrases I kept coming back to was that because goblins in D&D, their lifespan is like 25 years tops. Um, and so the phrase I kept coming back to is that their entire civilization and their entire like evolutionary behavior is built around planting the seeds of trees that they will never get to sit in the shade of. So that was like a big thing. Man's just cracked for all of his life. At least you weren't that scared 2 streams, and we just got to chapter 3. That's fair. I'll try and jump in and show my support. I think Oni needs some support. I'll definitely jump in and help out where I can, or make fun of her, which is the go-to, isn't it? Just fun. It's just fun to make fun of people. You never knew that, but he's not wrong. Only basing a language off of English is as if other languages don't exist. Yeah, exactly. And it was something I was terrified of doing in the comic, in RATBB. So, so Goblin is based off of Maori, and I liked it because it was so Maori consists of 15 letters, certain amount of consonants, certain amount of vowels, but it's very straightforward, and it's one of the easiest languages to learn because it is so practical. So I used that as a template and built from there. Through that, I learned a great many things, and I took on. So the original, like written language of Maori is really interesting because it's a series of curls and curves that speak out that illustrate the language and the consonants and things like that. But I quickly realized that if I did a little bit of altering, which was important to do because it's a new language, so it can't just be Maori script. But I realized that if I altered it ever so slightly, it would look like the branches and leaves of a tree. So a big thing about goblin culture, and especially Ratchet's heritage and background, is that his culture came from tree-dwelling goblins. So the idea that their entire culture and their, not religion, but their philosophy of life is derived by the nature of these trees that existed for many, many generations beyond goblins was hugely important. And one thing I'm really keen to explain or show you guys is that their language develops with time too, and has developed with time too. In that, anyone who's played D&D, they know thieves can't. They also probably know of thief signs or thief signs. In this comic, thief signs or the goblin written language is often mistaken for thief signs, and it highlights the nature or the unfair treatment of goblins within fantasy worlds, is that often people treat goblins without kindness and without grace because they consider them, one of the most common stereotypes for goblins is that they're thieves. So I really wanted to build a culture that wasn't thieves, of course, but it was built around this idea that it was rife for misunderstanding in a space where understanding wasn't given to them. So I'm really keen for you guys to see some of that stuff show up in the comic as well. It's going to be some of my favorite stuff. And I'm not going to explain the language to you guys. I'm going to write it out, but I'll give you guys the freedom to actually learn it as well as we go through the comic. And now let me read your comments. And not only are there languages of Lord of the Rings, about 8 languages in Lord of the Rings, how the fuck do you do that? Yeah, that's insane. I think for me, 1 language is more than enough. It's so much work. I think it's Thai that has a very tonal language, so to or some other word said in a high pitch means one thing and then said in a low pitch is something else. Damn, that's so complicated or fascinating. Are the thief signs the same as the Thieves Guild signs in Skyrim, where if you know a sign, it will say that a house has the most money or who secretly sides with the Thieves Guild? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And in this comic, you'll actually see a lot of those similar signs, but I've actually I figured out a very interesting cultural background for it. And I don't mind telling you, because I really enjoy talking about my comic, and it's so interesting that I started this stream, and I haven't really talked about the comic very much in these streams, because it's always been kind of hard to explain the story without giving spoilers, but this is one of the few wonderful but rare exceptions. The thieves signs in this comic will look like will look like the written language for the goblins, or the written language for the goblins is called yes, you were spot on. Yes, good on you. Congrats, you got it right. The language for the goblins is called Cat-Eye. And in the comic, in this language, Cat-Eye basically is written vertically. So a word is written vertically up the base of a tree. So basically the leaves and stems of the tree spell out the writing, or spell out the words and letters of it spells out the letters of the word of the tree, which then explains basically keywords of whatever whatever it is describing. So because it is a simplistic and direct language, it will only say stuff like danger or things like that. simple one word or two word phrases. Vertically, like how Japanese is written vertically. Yeah, pretty much. But Thieves' writing is interesting because basically the philosophy behind the goblins is that they are, a free people in their land, and they live in connection with their homeland. When their homeland is taken over or not settled, is taken over by the empire, they lose that freedom. Is taken from them, and many goblins have to move to human-led or human, dwarf, and elf-led civilizations. And their freedom, though they're not necessarily stripped of their rights or anything along those lines, they are treated worse for sure. But because because their land is taken from them, the thieves' language is shown in a very similar way. So it's in like a diamond, like etching. So all thieves' writing is in those diamonds, and it's basically to signify that these thieves specifically feel trapped in a land that they once called home. So the tree that faces the center of their language is trapped. And so what many would consider just their language is now considered thieves' writing. But for them, it is the voice of subdued people, basically. Damn, Mouse, you're too far gone, like how Tolkien was. This is cool world building. Well, it's important. It's important world building. That's the thing. That you, like, the whole, like, the main, like, story of RATBB has these undertones of Ratchet's entire storyline is that he's a goblin who was raised by a human. So he doesn't know his culture, so he's uncovering and learning about his culture. But he's always felt separated from it. And in this world, goblins aren't necessarily thieves. Their culture is built around sharing, and sharing what they have, and giving what they don't need. But the giants are greedy in the skies, and they hoard the wealth that was stolen from their land millennia ago. So a great deal of this storytelling and this world building is based around a culture of giving that has now been misinterpreted to be a culture of theft. I like to think for Tolkien to write the books, he just locked himself in a room with food and water for 3 days, and when that ran out, he got more, and then he went back into his room. Yeah, well, that's what I'm doing Beanstalk Week. Food, water, comic. And I won't leave until the comic is done. No, I'd probably die before then. Because this is going to be a long series. RATBB, three volumes, all of which have about 100 pages worth of written content. Which varies, but you get the idea. But yeah, I also learnt Maori. I learnt Maori to develop a language. Because Maori is a beautiful language, and I've been using the term simple, but I think it's not simple. It's versatile and it's approachable, which is beautiful. Cat-eye is not a word in Maori. However, the nation of Katianki, which is where most of the story will take place in this comic, is a Maori word. it means guardian. And so if that, like, that will give you a little bit of insight into how the goblins perceive their homeland. It was their guardian. It was their protector. Kept them safe from the world that was warring. And then when the war brought itself to its shores, the goblins were trapped, unable to be protected by their guardian. And that's kind of like what I want to build in the story. There's some person crushing on Mouse. Damn, you're cute. I need to go on a date with you, Mouse. I need to draw more. Yeah, well, we joke about that, but I was gonna say, my Bumble's been popping off. They don't know about the comic, and I'm not gonna tell them about it for a very long time. Mouse, do you have a size for your world? Like, is the entirety of your world as big as the US, or is it as big as Australia? So actually, one fun thing is that I didn't create the world. Some of you may know Poops. If you're in the Discord, you will have seen she drew a beautiful picture of Grey Mouse. Grey Mouse, that's me. Ratchet. It's a super cute little picture in the poster art page. But she drew that. She also created the world, so she was the DM for the campaign that introduced Ratchet. And she designed a lot of the world. Cat Eye has gone through many changes, and I've been building out a lot of it myself, so I don't know about the entire world, but Cat Eye specifically is about the size of... it's not a big... It's about the size of... Well, actually, hold on. It's not multiple islands, it's a single island. And which is about the size of the South Island of New Zealand. I'm using New Zealand as a bit of a point of reference today. I don't mean to, but that's about the size. It's not a huge continent, but it's big enough for the story to kind of take place. So that'll suit me down to the ground. And we'll get flashbacks in different parts of the Empire and stuff like that, but the main kind of meat of the story will take place in Katiyanki. Because we will meet characters who are from other parts of the world and, you know, parts of the Empire, so we'll actually get insight into the Empire itself. The Empire's not necessarily evil, like Star Wars. It's just a big organization, basically, that kind of oversees everything, and a lot of its aid is maybe misguided. Maybe a little corrupt, but you never know. Can people give suggestions on good world building? Because if so, as a lore nerd, I might have some ideas if that's okay. For sure, you're more than welcome to. I might open up a text channel in Discord if... Oh, well, actually, hold on. I think I do have a text channel in Discord. Ideas and feedback. So in RATBB, in the RATBB panel, there's a space called Ideas and Feedback. You are more than welcome to drop ideas and feedback into that space. One thing about constructive criticism is that if I dispute it for any reason and I give a good reason to, then ultimately that's one part of discourse, is that we can kind of either agree or disagree, and it's okay if we disagree as long as I have a good reason to. If I go no and then just silence you or like block you, that's not fair. Is it like the NCR of New Vegas? Like, they aren't corrupt per se? Well, kind of. Yeah, actually, the NCR is a really good example of what kind of like empire building I'm doing. Is that they're not corrupt. Not really. Well, sort of. But not really. But they're just so stretched thin that they can't actually make a huge difference. Or they can't make a positive difference, really. And in a world filled with like magic and... So they are the NCR, got it. Pretty much. To a certain degree, yeah. And in a world where there are super powers at play, or not superpowers, but magic and individuals who are so powerful that they're basically like one-man armies, the nature of the empire is more just to keep those people at bay from, conquering large portions of the world and things like that, where it's just like, oh, we've had a like a Tiamat level dragon attack in this area, so we kind of need to divert resources there. We can't really help with the establishment and development of Katiyanki because we're kind of busy and we're kind of expending our resources there and things like that. And so we'll get a little bit of Empire like stuff, but it won't be like, oh yeah, the Empire's getting involved. Be prepared to shit your britches or whatever. It's like the Empire is involved, but only as much as they can be. Beyond that, they ain't doing shit. I'd like to give you ideas for cool lore, but I don't know what you are or aren't focusing on. So if that makes sense, since there's parts of the comic you haven't seen, that's fair. I mean, we're only on chapter 1, so it's a lot of parts of the comic you haven't seen, which of course is okay. But just the nature of making such a huge, like a monolithic comic, you know? As we like, because I'm going to be streaming for a very long time on this comic. If you feel you've got ideas, you're more than welcome to drop them in the ideas and feedback chat as we go, because it'll be a while before we get to any like the big meat, like the big story beats. So yeah, you're allowed to introduce what you like. If I disagree with it, that's okay. It's not like a personal thing. Like, oh, maybe my story is going a certain way. It may not be important. Mouse, would you do a race of people who are big boy strong as fuck motherfuckers, and they are so extremely smart and useful that they usually like to keep to themselves and are isolationists? Um, Potentially, yeah. In terms of the story, they probably wouldn't show up because of their isolation. So we have, I don't want to spoil too much, but we have. So there's the Empire, but there may be other organizations at work who might do a great deal more than the Empire and are so powerful that they can actually uh, implement centuries long change to the world without even being noticed. So that might be what you're like kind of leaning towards, maybe? I don't know. But I have certain things in place that are kind of like that. But you may not see a lot of it in the first series. You'll see little bits because how can you not um, be exposed to like a world altering organization? Yeah. But yeah, it's gonna be subtle stuff. So there was something super interesting, and I love this part of like the comic making process. But it was like I revealed that I'd finished the first page of the comic, and then I got like a bunch of messages on my Instagram from people who were like, "Hey, I've got this idea for like a comic and stuff," and I was just like, "Hey, I'm super busy." Like they wanted to like collaborate with me on a comic idea because I assumed they wanted to like hire me on as an illustrator while they did the writing and stuff, and I was just like, hey, I'm super busy, but I'd love to work on comic concepts with people, and then they just ghost me. They would always just ghost me because it's like, oh, I see what this is. You just want my art, which is like a little bit heartbreaking because I like, I wouldn't be against collaborating on a comic with someone, but I kind of still want that back and forth. I don't want to team up with someone who expects me to be like, I'll draw whatever you want, You just write it down and I'll draw it, That feels that doesn't feel like a working relationship. That feels like I'm just a pawn in their game. Like here's this race of people who can change a battle or war, but they despise violence and war, so they are mostly historians, biologists, or non-violent jobs. That's what you mean? Oh yeah, I get that. I may... Sorry about that mouse, fuck them. Yeah. Yeah, well, what can you do? Some people are like that, right? There are some people like that, Some people don't kind of get that artists are like people, and they don't treat them like people, they treat them like a resource, which is really not disheartening, but it's like a bit shitty, it's a bit shitty of them to behave that way or have that expectation, I think. Organized. No need to apologize. Zombie Slayer, it's just how some people are. Some people need to learn. I think that's one of the big things is some people need to learn that you can't kind of expect that from people, you know? We are also at the 2 hour mark. So, and we've actually colored the page, which is good. So, I am thinking we might call it. Oh, sorry, I'm just checked my notifications. Salty HKK gifted me a tier 1 subscription to Nev. That's lovely. How kind of them. Mouse, do you know of the YouTuber called Shadiversity? He usually does stuff about battle tactics in movies and fantasy. Ooh, that's cool. Posture check. Thank you for that. Starting to feel a bit stiff, for sure. And stretch. Thank you so much. Good soup. The applause not working. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Spoke too soon. Yeah, but I think I'll call it there. Grey sock puppet. Can do that. Gramoose. Gramoose is another. Gramoose is another model. I had to just switch. Hey, mouse. Nice. And to Gramoose. Gramoose! Yippee! An effect? Fact from the mouse. Okay. Cats can... Oh, actually, a really good one. Not a cat one. A really good fact is that birds actually do not have the taste receptors to taste chili. Or capsaicin, which is the chemical associated with the spicy flavor of chilies. Capsaicin is Latin for... capsaicin is the scientific term for the chemical, of course, but it is also the scientific term for capsicums. That's why Americans refer to capsicums as bell peppers, because they are peppers. But actually, it'd actually be misguided to say that that capsicums are peppers, and more accurate to say that chilies are capsicums. He does stuff about world building, so if you'd like, I can send you his links on how magic should work and how fantasy. Yeah, go for it. Please send that through. That would be great. But that's my fact. So that birds actually don't have taste receptors for spicy things. So if you find, so for my American audience, find that squirrels are getting into your bird feeders, you can sprinkle a little chili in there, and it'll stop the squirrels from eating the bird seed, but it won't stop the birds from eating the bird seed. And that's my grey mouse fact of the day. And that's my panel of the day. It's a nice panel. Nice. Looks good. Looks good. Happy with that. But let us look into whom to raid as we draw close to the end of the stream. Highlight my message, so my highlighted message will be highlighted from the highlighting of my message from the highlight my message reward. Nice. I actually fully expected to fuck that up too, but I didn't. Good on me. Riz. Yeah. With that knowledge, Rizzy. Tealful is live. So I know for certain, Riz Jesus. We are not raiding Tealful. You know what? Let's see how you like it. I'm gonna raid Nev. I've gotten a tier. I was gifted a subscription to Nev, so let's jump in and thank them. But thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking around and joining me on this panel. Really looking forward to getting back into streaming. But I will see you all next time. And I see you riding there, Zombie Slayer. Fuck you. Behave yourself. Nev is great. She posts cursed shit, so be good. But I'll see you all next time. Bye.